Welcome to the Detailing Down Under podcast, the place for everything auto detailing in Australia right now. Here's your host, Dale Guthrie.
G'day and welcome to the Detailing Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Dale Guthrie. So we're back again and I've got a guest this week, which is pretty good. Thanks for everyone from last week and the feedback. It's been really good. We're going along pretty well. Got a few episodes to come this week to record, so that's awesome. So had a heap of people reach out. So that makes life easier because it's not just about me, and I still am chasing guests in other areas as well. For people that reach out and want to come on, that's good, and definitely won't say no. It's just a matter of aligning times and stuff. So got a good one here. He's been mentioned a few times to me, and I was halfway through messaging him, and then he ended up messaging me a few days later. So that worked out really well. I've got Jarrod from Platinum Auto Salon on today. So how you going, mate?
Good, and yourself?
Pretty good.
That's the way. Nice to hear.
Raring to go for a Monday. We're recording on a Monday, so Monday morning.
Absolutely. Start of the week. Get into it.
Absolutely. So Jarrod's from Melbourne, Victoria. So another Melburnian we've had on, so it's good.
Can't complain.
Nah. There's you're probably staying undercover with the recent weather we've had, I guess.
Yeah, just dodging it. Yeah, got a few raincoats on standby for next because you have absolutely no idea what's going to happen.
Nah, it's terrible at the moment. So for those who don't know, we're meant to be in spring, but I think it's still winter here. It's after the weekend's downpour. It's crazy. So
there was a bit of hail getting around yesterday. I think half the people thought it was snowing.
Nearly in Melbourne, it would be. Yeah, it's always that cold. So
can't win.
Nah, but Jarrod, we talked about mobile in a couple of episodes ago. So his name got thrown about, and he's come to me about, and he said he's a mobile. So we'll probably touch on about playing all that game with weather conditions as well a bit later on. But so we'll kick it off, Jarrod. So how did you ever get into detailing, and where did it all start, you reckon?
Beautiful. Well, it started back when I got my license. I got my license on my 18th birthday. Always appreciated cars. I went to a lot of motor racing with the old man when I was a kid, and just wanted to look after my own cars, really. My first car was a Mazda 323 Sport, I believe. Great little car, and just wanted to keep it in good nick. Reason why I sort of got into it, more of the business side of things, obviously monetary. I was a chippy apprentice. First year, obviously you're on peanuts. When that all sort of, just wanted to sort of bring some more money into the bank. Actually started detailing with, at the time, was a good mate of mine. He left early on, and I haven't spoken to him for a number of years now. We started off under the name of JJ's Car Detailing, something to have a bit of a laugh about. Obviously Jarrod, and his name was Jamie. If I still had JJ's now, I'd probably give up, because it's not a very good name, but everyone starts somewhere.
Yep.
He left early on, and I basically carried it. Had a name change a few years ago to Platinum Auto Salon. Spent maybe 5-6 years building it up. Well, probably not that long. Sorry, building it up while having a second job. So after the building apprenticeship sort of collapsed, I jumped into the automotive trade, and I think that pushed it along a lot as well. Went through a few panel shops, learned to paint, which is extremely handy with what we do. I'm probably going on my 4th year being full time, and it could not be better. It has its moments, but there's nothing to complain about. Absolutely nothing, which is grouse. So
That's awesome. What about no regrets? Probably being a chippy these days, like they're making good coin as
look,
well.
every now and then it crosses my mind. Obviously, detailing's not a trade. It's definitely an experience-based industry. Every now and then it does cross my mind, like, damn, what would life be like if I continued on? I think I'd still be in some sort of business, like, have my own, let's say, chippy business if I continued it on. Definitely some sort of business related, but yeah, it's just, every now and then, I mean, it crosses my mind for a trade. Obviously, trades get carried with you. Like having a trade certificate means a fair bit these days. So you sort of feel a little bit hopeless to a point because there's no trade, there's no certificate. So I'm basically running off what I've created, which is just as good, but there's nothing that sets it in stone. So every now and then it crosses my mind, but then I quickly think back to where I've come from, what I've got, my customers, and all that sort of stuff, which keeps you trucking in the right direction. But yeah,
I've always wondered that because I'm a panel beater background, and then you got the spray painting in that sides of things, and then you think detailing, refining, paint as well. That we take it to the next level after a painter. So you think there should be a trade around sort of auto detailing in a way.
You'd absolutely think so. I think there was a few guys looking into it. I think it sort of fizzled out pre-COVID because there's obviously a lot involved, but I think they got really close, but that's about as far as it went because they all had other things to look at. But again, look, because I've spent so long in this industry, built the name up and all that sort of stuff, it doesn't really faze me too much. I don't know if you've looked through my socials, but it's very hit and miss at the moment. There's probably a lot of guys that think we've shut down or whatnot because our posts are so few and far between, which isn't necessarily the best thing, but that just comes down to time. And being mobile too, there's a lot of time on the road, not a whole lot of time to catch up with bookwork, although that's getting looked after for me, to keep those socials rolling. Keep it updated, which is always a bit of a struggle. But yeah, as I say, what I've spent so hard working towards over the last few years, it's sort of put my mind at ease that I don't need to really worry about that trade anymore. That I can use what I've learnt over the years and keep trucking forward, and not have to worry about a second option, which I think's handy.
Do you rely on social media to bring in work, or you're pretty good name around there now? Everyone knows who you are. And
definitely, it's definitely word of mouth now, which is a wonderful feeling. Again, going back onto that socials, I've got a massive library full of cars that we've been working on, cars that I'd love to post up and say, look, this is what we've been up to, this is what we're doing. But at the moment, every now and then, I'll get some messages through our website, our socials and stuff, and maybe 7 or 8 times out of 10 they're still returning customers, so I'd probably call, I probably wouldn't even class that. Every now and then we get a few new customers on the phone, but yeah, I think at the moment I'm pretty confident in saying that it's all just word of mouth now, which is grouse, so I haven't spent a cent on advertising. It's all really natural now. So we've got a few good contacts that keeps the calendar full. And yeah, we'll just do our best to keep everyone happy, which is a never-ending battle, unfortunately. But I think everyone in business knows that.
yeah, not just detail, it's business as a whole, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But word of mouth's huge. So if you're obviously getting that and returning customers, you probably you're doing something right.
Yeah, word of mouth's massive. It's definitely the most time-consuming way to grow a business, and I believe it's really the only way. You can absolutely jump into a business with a pocket full of cash and make yourself look massive and good and big and whatever. But whether you're able to deliver the work, whether it's detailing, building, making a coffee, it always comes back to that time spent in the industry, your chosen industry, rather than just, I suppose, putting a whole lot of cash on the table. So I built what I've got the longest way possible. That time building up the customers, getting that word of mouth around, and now today's today. So
yeah, no, I can definitely relate. Word of mouth's big, and then once your name's out there and people know who you are, they get theirs done. They're like, that looks cool. Who done that? It's a roll-on effect, and and sometimes
around.
you don't need a website or socials to, like I post, but my posts are probably 3 weeks old. The cars that I've done, I'd probably got that many in the bank. I don't need to post, and I don't want to flood my socials too much. But yeah. So what were your challenges back in the JJ days, and then converting into going on your own?
Challenges, I think, were very minimal back then. Obviously, well, I suppose because I was still working a second job, the challenges weren't as big. If I jumped into it full time, there'd be plenty of challenges. Oh, when's the phone going to ring? What am I going to do tomorrow? Where's all this work coming from? So I think having that second job relieved a lot of those challenges that you would normally have going full time or starting your own business. So I didn't really have a whole lot. Again, going back to, we all start in the same, we all start from the start type of deal. You're going through a lot of shit products, testing, trialing, a lot of shit jobs, saying yes to shit jobs. Back then, if I was like, as I sit now thinking back to my work back then, I would have laughed. I'm like, who's this guy? What's he doing? As I said, you can always have a laugh at where you started from, and just picked up a few things over the years. So in terms of challenges, there isn't a whole lot because I had that second job. If I had an empty weekend, I was still bringing money in during the week. At the time, I was still living with the folks as well, so I didn't have any overheads and all that sort of stuff. So besides, I suppose having that other partner in it was a bit of a challenge looking back, as he left pretty early, so it was still early days. It is what it is, type of attitude. So we just kept tracking forward and just gradually got better and better, I suppose. New products, 8-9 years doing it, so it's a long time to really refine what you're doing, pick up, trial and error, obviously, hit and miss products, hit and miss people, customers, and just sort of fine tune where you want to head with it, I think.
Yep. Oh, that's awesome. I can relate to running another job if you haven't listened to last week's pod about us and myself. So yeah, it's a little form of bit of security if the detail is not working, you've got that other gig on the side. Mine's transitioning at the moment, so we're waiting to see where that ends up. I think another 12 months, I think it's going to be interesting times for me in a positive way. So
it's exciting. It really is.
Yep. I'm just that far off pulling the trigger and no more FIFO. That's how close I am. But
I still remember the last week before I pulled the trigger. Like, it was on the cards for a long time. But with the company that I was in, I was just laboring for actually a cabinet making joint. I wound back to 4 days a week with them and 3 days detailing. And the last week, I was like, oh shit, where's all this work how am I gonna fill these 4 days a week? And it just rolled. It just honestly just rolled on. I've never had a quiet time, besides COVID. There's always been work. I kept saying to myself, look, if I only work 2 days a week or whatever and make that weekly wage, I'll be sweet. But thankfully and luckily, I've never had a quiet period where I'm like, oh shit, what am I going to do? But it was definitely an exciting time to become your own boss essentially full time.
That's a good way of putting it. It's normally people go, "Oh, it was scary," it's scary, and then you're like, "No, it's exciting." That's a good way
Oh,
of
look,
putting it.
there's always, I don't know, maybe it was exciting because it was scary, but it was. Everyone, a lot of people I've spoken to that are taking that leap, like they're all saying the same things. There's always that little bit of doubt, and that's natural. But shortly after, once you get knocked through those first few weeks, you're just like, why didn't I do this a long time ago? Why didn't I believe myself back then? And all that sort of stuff.
No, that's a good way of really putting it. So, what's your services today? So, what's your setup with your mobile? What do you got,
So
and how does
we've
that work?
got, I suppose the best way to put it is we've got two sides to what I do. The first side is your premium detailing, your pre-sales when we do get around to them, your paint corrections, your paint protection, and all that sort of stuff. And then the other side is actually a maintenance program. So we've got a handful of customers that the majority of them we've already carried out the premium side of work, so the paint correction, the ceramic, and all that sort of stuff. And we actually maintain them. They're on a rotating, I suppose, roster. Look after guys weekly, fortnightly, and monthly, scheduled in the same time, same day, every cycle. So yeah, we also enjoy maintaining them as well. It sort of breaks. It's good because it breaks. As you know yourself, you could spend massive days behind the polisher, and it's just the same thing, pass after pass after pass. And there's nothing that I love more about detailing and then washing the car the next day. Just pressure washer in the door jams if you need to. Just putting the polisher down. As much as I love polishing, just putting the polisher down for a day and just watch a whole bunch of cars. It breaks it up really nicely.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Yep.
So that's probably the best way to explain what we do. Yeah.
No, that's good. At least you got a lot of customers on your plan going forward every month. At least it's guaranteed work.
Look, it essentially it's like that bread and butter stuff. I am actually starting to wind down on it a lot. I've had a few guys let me down. All a part of business, let me down. Empty promise. The way I do my wash program is rather than booking it a random time in every week, constantly speaking to the customer. What suits you this week? What suits what time, etc. It's the same time. It's the same routine every week. I've had a few. Again, this is a bit of a challenge, in business now to navigate. I've had a couple of guys book 2 cars a fortnight, but there was a bit of a pattern happening that I'd rock up and only one be there. Which you just sort of move on. You finish the day early, or you go and do more things. But I've actually knocked on a few doors recently and said, look, I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. On the other hand, I've always been looking for more time to spend on the premium side of things. So the decision came quite easily to get rid of these troublemaking customers. Well, not troublemaking customers, but customers that made life a tiny bit difficult. So I can free up time to do some more bigger jobs. And ultimately, as a business, that's where the money is in these bigger jobs. So maybe a year ago, I was probably doing about 90 cars a month in between all the premium stuff. And now we're probably down to, I would probably say, maybe somewhere between 20 and 30 cars a month. So we've cut it right back, and it's still enough to break up the premium stuff. And there's more time to do this premium, booking this premium work, because that's obviously where you want to aim for.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you go with some of your sort of places you get taken to clean the cars? Are they decent setups, garages, or how's that work?
The customers that we what am I trying to say? The enthusiasts and the customers that we work for, they've all got garages. We're not a detailer for everyone. Like yourself, we're pretty specialised in what we do. So I very rarely come across someone that will want this paint correction and stuff, and they don't have anywhere to put it to do the work in. In terms of the maintenance side of things, it's something that you can do outside. I have never, bar one job that I didn't really want to do anyway, been without access to a power point and a tap, being mobile. So you just rock up, hook up to power, 240 volt, hook the tap up, and you're going. You're doing what you need to do. So the maintenance side of things pretty easy in terms of setup outside. The weather's the weather. If it's raining, you delay it. You change your schedule around a little bit, work around it. If you get rained on, you get rained on. Whereas obviously the premium side of detailing, that's a little bit harder because you've got to be inside and whatnot. But I reckon 97% of my customers have somewhere to do their cars, which is fantastic. And that other, let's say 3%. I've got a nice double car garage at home. I've absolutely punched out a few jobs at home, which is always handy. There's always options. Like Glenn's a good friend of mine, and he mentioned a nice Glenn, who you had on the podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
Good friend of mine. He mentioned that tight knit community amongst a few detailers. He's got his factory. Where I'm going with this is, if you're ever stuck without a location, there's always someone that you've been working with for some time that'll help out. Which is always, I think you absolutely need to have a few guys on speed dial. In any industry really. If you're out there by yourself, I think you'd make ends meet, but it definitely makes life a little bit easier if you can rely on a couple of guys in the same industry.
No, that's a really awesome way to answer it. And we would talk about the culture and stuff within our industry as well, so that you definitely have others if you are too busy or you need a roof over your head at the time. That reaching out to others that you're mates with always helps.
Absolutely, you need it. Otherwise, it's definitely handy.
No, nice. I was looking at some of your Insta photos, so it looks like you do a variety of all sorts.
We definitely are a bit of everything. That's just the game that we play. Every now and then we'll get a nice classic. I've got a few customers that I look after their classics frequently. I could do an inside-outside maintenance on an exotic, and then the next day I'll be washing a piece of poo, almost. It's just like the differences are massive. But I think that's what keeps it exciting too. I think I'd go bananas if I was playing with exotics all day every day. But it's nice to do a bit of everything. You get a feel, again, that experience. If you're serious about building experience, you need to do shit jobs. You need to do the high end stuff. You need to do expensive cars. You need to do cheap cars. You need to know how to use acid to your advantage. You need to know all that sort of stuff. If you're really serious about getting anywhere, otherwise you'll most likely just flatline out a little bit. The way I sort of think of it. But you definitely need to. At the end of the day, we all start somewhere. You absolutely wouldn't start a detailing business and day one you're working on a 488 Ferrari or something. You've got to start somewhere. So
start at the bottom, as they say. That's
right. Absolutely.
Yeah, can't expect the Ferraris first month in, but if you are getting them, that's great. But you got to start somewhere, and I think starting at the bottom and working on the not so great things, it really tests you. And working around it can also help and add more experience as well for later on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You'll stuff things up, and if you stuff things up, it's never any good, but it'll happen. Yeah, it has to happen almost. there's probably guys out there that have had nothing happen to them, which is great. But, that's also another challenge to navigate if something does happen. But I'd tell you what, I'd much rather stuff something up on a Holden or something, not that I've nothing against Holden. I've got a Holden myself. I love Australian made cars, but stuffing up on something cheap, just navigating from there, rather than screwing up on something that's really expensive.
That's awesome. What about employees? Have you had any drop in, or you just still on your own?
I'm still on my own at the moment. I doubled in employment probably pre-COVID, I think it was. I believe I need someone half decent. Well, everyone wants someone half decent if they're employing, but I'm still got my eyes open. I'm not actively searching now, but my eyes are open for someone. But long story short, I'm happy cruising, doing what I need to do. When I was employing, obviously new set of challenges, new set of business tasks, I suppose. I do have a business coach, which did help a lot in fine-tuning how to find someone. It didn't last super long because the bloke that I did have on, I saw a mini version of me when I first started my business. Very, very business-minded, was working other jobs. Long story short, there was one day he had worked a full day with me, and as you know, detailing can be quite full on the body, and by the time you finish the day, you don't really want to do a whole lot more. He went and did his second job that afternoon, and I saw it from a mile away what was going to happen, and he rocked up late the next day, and it was a lesson for me. It was a lesson for him. That the whole thing didn't work out just for that reason, but I just saw it. Yeah, just new things new experiences that you pick up on moving forward for employment in the future. But yeah, at the moment it's just me, myself, and I, and my headphones and my polisher and my car, doing what we got to do. So another challenge with employment and mobile is obviously the location, being mobile. It'll be a million times easier if I was employing and I had like a fixed location that whoever could come down and do a trial or whatever. But it just, being mobile throws its own challenges into employment. Meeting at my home address in the morning, then going out for the day. Another big challenge is the hours. Being mobile, the hours are all over the shop, and 9 times out of 10, they are a lot longer than your standard 8 or 9 hour working day. So some people, that was a hard pill to swallow. Meet at mine at 7, get to the site at, let's say, 7:38, finish at 5, and then it's by the time we get home and then they get home, it might be 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, depending on what we had on the day. And these days, no offense to anyone, but there's a growing population of people that just don't want to work. They don't want to put the hours in. And mobile detailing is definitely not for that person. If you want to stick to an 8-hour shift or something, I mean, it's workable. But you obviously you're splitting these bigger polishing jobs over 2 days, and your schedule just gets pushed out, I suppose. So that was definitely a challenge with employment. But yeah, I basically just said this will do. I'll obviously look at it again down the track when we think about a fixed premises. But yeah, at the moment it's just myself.
Yeah, you've already bet me too. I was going to ask, have you thought going down the fixed location eventually, or?
100%, absolutely.
Yep.
Mobile. A few guys have spoken about the mobile, like they obviously started off in mobile. A few guys that you've had on have spoken about starting off in mobile, then moving to a fixed location, the benefits of being mobile and the disadvantages of being mobile, and how well a fixed location is. Absolutely, I'll be looking forward to a smallish sort of fixed location. Then we can look at employment again, and then I do have a few customers that they will never be fixed customers. They'll always be mobile customers. Going back to the advantages, I suppose, well, that I think of mobile is obviously the people. You get a 10 times better relationship with mobile work. I've met some of my best mates today started off as a customer, which is incredible. I've got some really nice customers that, that the benefits, they'll get lunch made for you, get a little, it's one customer in particular, every time I see them twice a month, lunch, come home with some fresh eggs, and just absolutely beautiful people. I love working for them, and they definitely look after me as I do them. But I suppose with a fixed location, you don't really get that relationship anymore. And that's sort of what keeps me, I suppose, going a little bit more in the mobile sort of game. Then obviously on the other hand, the disadvantages of mobile, you got the weather, the driving. They're probably the only two disadvantages of mobile. Because I've been doing it for so long, the environment, I suppose weather comes off the environment, but if we're in a garage or something, I've got the car's kitted out. I've got everything at my hands. There's nothing that really throws me off when we're inside. Obviously, when we're outside and it's raining, it's a bit of a kick in the guts. But at the moment, the positives definitely are outweighing the negatives. But yeah, going back to fixed locations, absolutely down the track, would love to be in a fixed location, but still have a bit of a mobile side, looking after the guys that have looked after me, and then possibly an employee to run the show while I'm mobile, or get them to run the mobile stuff, and I'll stay at the factory. But I think moving forward in business, you can get pretty far in mobile, absolutely, but I think if you want to keep progressing, I think you need to look at a fixed location. But everyone's different. Everyone has different views, and where they want to be, what they want to do. Obviously, going into a fixed location, you've got a whole new set of expenses, whereas mobile is pretty simple. You just got your car, really, and being in a factory, you got rents or loan repayments if you've bought it outright, or all the utilities and all that sort of stuff. So it's definitely a whole nother set of expenses, which doesn't turn me off at all, but it's just something that needs to be considered. Absolutely.
How do you go? Like, I know Melbourne's traffic's crazy at the non-peak times, but how do you go? Do you travel far every day? Do you have a certain area you work in, or you're all over the place?
I definitely do like to keep the circle small. This is probably another reason why I've been softly letting some customers go, because I've been driving quite far for not a great return. Now, obviously, when you start business, you'll bend over backwards for customers, get their trust, get the work and whatnot. You just deal with the driving. So at the moment, I'm definitely working towards working a little bit smarter than harder, as anyone should be. So that circle is definitely getting smaller to where I live. In terms of I was actually over the other side of the city the other day on a job, and I would only drive that far if it was a good job, and it was a new car ceramic, so perfect daily turnaround. Obviously, getting up nice and early to get there at 7 to get stuck into it. Get it all done, and you're home in the same. Obviously, you're home. You might be home a little bit later on in the afternoon, but it's a big solid job to warrant that much driving. If I was going over that way for a wash, I'd be just silly. It doesn't even cross my mind anymore. You'd be absolutely bananas to do something like that, unless there was a day set up where you could just punch out a lot and you were there in the same spot. But yeah, the circle is definitely getting smaller. But I'm not afraid to, again, for those bigger jobs, I will absolutely drive within reason. But again, the culture. There's heaps of us. Almost every second person is a detailer, which isn't a bad thing. There's always someone to recommend. Unfortunately, all the guys that I recommend are down my way. So as soon as I get someone on the other side of the city for something that's not a super big job, I sort of let the inquiry dry out a little bit, which isn't nice. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Can't keep everyone happy as much as we'd like to, but that's what it is.
Yeah, you can try, but you probably never will keep everyone.
It'll
happy,
never work. It'll absolutely never work. So, and you always learn the hard way. So,
what is your what's your area? I know the other side, but
so we're based out of Warren South at the moment.
Yep.
So the south east side, roughly. I'm not too really good with compasses and
right.
and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, mainly down the southeast side. So Warren, Dandenong, Carrum Downs, that general area. Again, we'll go to wherever we've got to go for these bigger jobs. But yeah, it seems to just be down the southeast side, which I'm comfortable with. You can get anywhere within half an hour or so, give or take. I'm generally on the road pretty early in the morning. I like to get stuck into the day nice and early, so I don't really worry too much about the traffic. Obviously, coming home can be a different story, but then again, my days are massive, so I'm always coming home when everyone else has sort of made their way home, which I suppose is handy too. So we're not super duper affected. A lot of that will come down to, I've just set up a new car for mobile. It's my office, so I like to have some nice things. As my partner would say, too many nice things. So I've got a nice work car now, and I like driving. If you didn't like driving, mobile detailing is not for you. Probably detailing as well is not for you. If you don't like driving, that means you probably don't like cars either.
Yeah.
So if I'm stuck in traffic, I've got I'm just chilling out. It's time to reflect on the day, think about what's tomorrow. Just keep moving forward. So it can look. It's just a frustrating part of life. I think there's that many cars on the road at the moment. A lot of people that you wonder how they got their license, and you see it all. You're spending a few hours a day on the road. You definitely see a few things, and you just I've got a nice big bull bar now. So if someone gets in my way, they're that's their fault. It's their fault, but. Yeah, so look, it's a part of life. I think driving and getting to places.
Is it what sort of car have you got now? What have you had, and what now have you got?
So all right. If we're going to go, what have we had? I've had a typical car person. I suppose I had a few cars. I started off with that Mazda that I mentioned, jumped into a VYS pack. That didn't last long. Fortunately, I will admit some silly driving. Then I actually jumped into a little EG Honda Civic, which is absolutely laughable because I'm a bigger guy and jumping out of this little car. So that was quite amusing. Then I jumped into a few utes, holding utes. Started working out of my last shoot was a VZSS, and that became a costly experience. Mobile out of a pretty heavy V8. Then I actually jumped to a little bit more of a reasonable work car, and that was a Volkswagen Caddy. So I had that fully wrapped, had a nice set of wheels on coilovers. Fantastic car, awesome. Did exactly what it needed to do, and it still had that look, that stylish sort of look to it. I never wanted a big van. There's a lot of vans out there where you're sitting over the top of the steering wheel, you're sitting a lot higher. I never wanted that, whereas the Volkswagen still drove like a car. I retired that just recently after about 3.5 years, and swapped it out to a D-Max, Isuzu D-Max. So I've jumped into the dual cab 4 drive game, which is a bit of an eye opener. I pulled the trigger on that kind of car to do a little bit more. Obviously, with the D-Max, you can do a lot more compared to a van tow. Go away. I've got a nice big canopy on the back that's at the moment set up for work, but there's a lot of camping side to it too, or touring.
Yep.
So I'd absolutely love to block out some time and start seeing our backyard and doing some trips in it. So that's what steered me away from jumping into another van. As the market's unreal at the moment. Trying to get a car, the prices. Obviously, I looked into the new Volkswagen Caddies, and what I paid for my 2018 Model One. They wanted an extra $20,000 for the latest one.
Wow.
For essentially, it had different styling and all that sort of stuff, but it was essentially the same car. And I looked at it for about 3.5 seconds. I'm like, you're dreaming. Because it still did all the same things. Then I actually had for not a whole lot more money, you could land into a Ford Transit. So I actually had a Transit on order for a while, which I've just recently cancelled because they emailed me saying that the car hit Australia's shores about 5 months later. I've always had a few people close to me say, oh, what about a dual cab and whatnot? But I instantly crossed it off because I could never fit everything in a fiberglass canopy in a tub. I'm sure I could try, but I know it'd be a struggle. But then, I crossed that off the list every time it was asked. But then I just started looking around. Another good friend of mine in this industry, he'd recently set up a D-Max as well with a canopy. I'm like, that's not a. You could probably say I copied him. We have a bit of a laugh, but he definitely inspired me into that car. But then obviously going on with a life thing with what we've just been through with COVID and stuff, life's too short to be, working into the ground, and there's a bit of motivation to just do a bit more life stuff, with my partner and just get out and do things. So that's what made the decision a lot easier to jump into, a dual cab and get it set up for a bit of everything.
Yeah.
So it'll never work, but I'd like to hope that I can maybe stop working so much. But look, we'll see. I've got to pre-book things out in months if I want to have some time off. So it's actually come out real quick. I've got Bathurst in a couple of weeks. With a couple of I heard you say, I think you said it the last podcast or something. So if so you haven't done it, have you?
Yeah, I have. I went in 15. Yeah, I'd go every year.
You can't? Did you camp?
Did
you camp?
No, I was too good.
So that's where that's you gotta do it. You gotta get down and dirty if it's raining and stuff. But the atmosphere is absolutely unreal when you're on the side of the mountain. Obviously, a few of us boys have been looking. I think there's 16 of us, so It's going to be a busy time. But everyone that I'm good mates with, they've all got businesses and stuff, work really hard, throughout the year. And this is sort of our once a year, get out, unleash, have a couple of waters, stay hydrated and watch the race.
That's awesome. I did go up top of the hill, but just for a watch. But the other one was I was just going to hire a camper van and do that way. But for the price, I thought I might as well just get a room in town. So
absolutely.
No, that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, if anyone appreciates motorsport, even if they don't appreciate it so much, but they understand Bathurst and the history behind and all that sort of stuff, that track is absolutely unreal. We get to when every year that we go down, one of the nights we'll be extremely hydrated with our waters and we'll actually walk the track.
Oh, yeah.
It takes us a few hours because we stop and talk to a lot of people with the same idea. They carry around a 6-pack of water and just walk the track. But the hill that they climb, after the few first corners, it just you're aiming at the sky pretty much. Just a whole new perspective of the track. Obviously, you see a lot more on TV, much like any race, but you don't get a feel for the hill itself that they're racing on.
Yep.
Which is just a surreal experience. So it's definitely looking forward to it. So
Yeah, that'd be sick. But they say, TV does no justice. Like if you go and drive it during the week, like how steep and stuff that track is,
I'd
that's
love
why it's so gnarly.
I'm taking the D-Max up. I'd absolutely love to go for a very slow lap because they like to pin a lot of people that creep over that 60k limit. But yeah, just even as they're walking, it just changes your perspective on how steep it really is.
Yeah, that's awesome. So have you got everything fitting in the D-Max? Does it fit or?
Yeah, so jumping out of the maxi caddy van, I assumed that I'd have to cull a few things, but it's actually worked out better than I expected. I had the only thing that I really changed is I had a 70-litre Chicago in the van. So obviously, if I was to put that size compressor in the canopy, it's a steel box canopy type of deal. It'll need some pretty hefty modifications, which I wasn't super keen on doing it. So all I've done is step from a 70 down to a 50. Fits in absolutely perfect. Had some drawers made a little slide out pantry for the bottles. There's a upright fridge in there, which we'll get on down the track, which is one of my best things. But yeah, everything. There's still some fine tuning, but for the work setup, I think it's I didn't really have to get rid of a whole lot, so which was pleasing going from the size of a maxi van to a canopy, which was great.
So popular these days, 4-wheel drives. I see heaps come through my shop, and they got the fridges in them, they got the drawers, and the dollars are never ending.
The dollar was the cost to set up was unreal, but it's definitely a long-term car. But there's definitely going back onto the 4-wheel drive thing. There's definitely a massive incentive at the moment to see our backyard. To not a whole lot of people want to be traveling and all that sort of stuff. If they've been lucky enough to not, it might be a bit of a sensitive topic, but if they've been lucky enough to do half okay through COVID, saved a bit of money and all that sort of stuff. I've got a few pages on social media of traveling and all that sort of stuff, and it just makes you want to go and experience it yourself before anything else. I think every Australian or every citizen should be doing our own backyard before anything else. Not that happens, but it's definitely on the list just to give work, not the flick, but just put work aside for a little bit and, look after yourself and, take some time off. And I'd absolutely love to do a trip, around Oz, do a big circle. I don't know when that'll happen, but it's probably not a bad idea to maybe start planning it and just slowly work towards it.
Bit of that work-life balance. Do you have weekends off? Do you aim for that?
So I've done 7 days for a very, very long time. If I continued doing 7 days, I'll probably be a single man. So I've scraped back to my Sundays for church. Not really church, but spend time with my partner. Just do a weekend thing. As much as I'd love to have both days, I think that Sunday would be a little bit tricky. Just because we work with a whole range of different people. People that work that standard job that might not have that flexibility to book things in during the week. That Saturday is very popular, so the Saturdays generally fill out pretty quickly for that reason. You're always working towards not working as much. Few of the guys do it really well. And I'm sure if I started to put my foot down, the ball could slowly start turning. But at the moment, the river's flowing. So you just got to go with it, I think. While we're somewhat young too, get it all happening, and then you can, enjoy the fruits of your labour, which I am. Going about there, it's got the car, through the whole process to keep you trucking on. But I think everyone could, use a bit of that work-life balance. It's always a never-ending battle. It really is.
Nice. You talked about coatings and your premium work. So what's your coating products, and what other products are you all certified with?
So I've been through quite a few brands. Was definitely one of those G-Technic fanboys for a brief amount of time, but your expression just now explains it. It's a bit of a laughable brand. I actually can't, because of the brand keeps popping up. I actually looked how many installers are in Melbourne at the moment. And my name was on there for a very long time, but they've actually just updated it, which is good. But there is a total of 71 installers for Melbourne. Mind you, it's a business. The rep for G-Technic down here is probably loving life at the moment because he's selling all his product. Good on him. But it's definitely a bit of a laughable topic at the moment. Their brands, like their coatings itself, is a bit hit or miss. There's definitely a bit of an issue. We're probably going to get onto it soon. There's definitely a bit of an issue with overhype, over promises, and all that sort of stuff. And whatnot. I've had a couple of G-Technic coatings fail. God knows why. Obviously, everything's done by the book, but God knows why. When I was still with them, they actually changed Crystal Serum Light as a pro only, and they changed it to a consumer level. And that's where it sort of started going downhill. And then while we're on there, we'll finish up quickly because I don't really want to talk about them. But their Crystal Serum Ultra, they are guaranteeing it for 9 years, which I think is absolutely well and truly fallen short of what it will. I think that's a solid, 3 to 4 year coating, give or take. But just, it's a never-ending issue in this industry. These overhypes, overpromises, just to get that sale. And the warranties aren't worth the paper that they're written on. But going back to the original question, I've used quite a few brands over the years, but I'm now with Kamikaze and Angel Wax. So Angel Wax, a few guys have spoken, well, especially Glenn, the other day. They are incredible coatings. What's most appealing about the Angel Wax range at the moment is how they, as Glenn mentioned it, how they bounce back after a wash, which I've never experienced before with any coating. If you leave a coated car without a good wash for a month or two, expect it to be a little bit, how you going when you wash it. You might need to go over with an application of a water spot remover or something just to remove the minerals and whatnot. But the Angel Wax stuff just bounces back like day one with a good solid wash, which is I believe it's unheard of, which is really good. Another benefit with our maintenance program that we have, because most of them are cars that I've corrected and coated, I actually get a first-hand feel of how these coatings work, which I think is extremely beneficial for everyone in this industry, because there's way too many detailers out there that I believe that obviously money hungry, which we all are, but they apply these products and send the car out the door, but they have no first-hand. Yeah, they might come back once a year or something for a maintenance, but they have no first-hand experience with how these coatings react and how they wash day to day, which is super important, and it gives you the confidence that what the customer's paying for is what they're actually going to get. None of these, if a coating, starts sort of losing its hydrophobic properties a year down the track, these guys won't know. They won't know how to respond to it or whatever, and the customer thinks, oh, my coating's fallen off or there's something wrong, etc. But I get a feel of how these coatings react. I get a feel with how they perform after 1 week of use, how they perform after a fortnight's worth of use, and monthly. And each course is it's not. We often get mind blown with how things perform. And the Angel Wax Genesis coating is definitely one that I'm constantly getting mind blown of how it's performing. So that's a massive one, especially being mobile. That's a massive one. But yeah, Kamikaze and Angel Wax are definitely my go-tos at the moment. So I haven't used a whole lot of Kamikaze recently because we do it for a lot of daily drivers and stuff. So that's where this Angel Wax product is a little bit more beneficial in my eyes. Again, everyone's got their own opinions and all that sort of stuff, and everyone's in their own sort of lane, customers, everything. But that's the way I'm sort of looking at it at the moment. So,
yeah, definitely a good way to put it, because if you've applied it, then you can see how it's performing over time, and you're either going to love it and go, that's awesome, I'll keep using it. If it's starting to fade, you'll be like, maybe this is not so great after all. So it's a good way, and maintenance is a big thing for coating. So if we're not maintaining them properly, they probably will drift off, and the hydrophobics will as well. So I got a good example from mine at the moment. I got one in today. It's well over 2-year-old little Range Rover Evoque. So that's in for a top-up coating, and I only put the Enthusiast Geon coating on at the time, and it just still keeps beading off. And she's picked up on it and wanting to she's like, oh, does it need another coating? And I'm like, well, last time I washed it, it didn't. I wasn't trying to squeeze any money and say, yeah, it does. But it was fine. So, we're going to do one today. She hadn't been back for a while, so I'll top that up. And that's she's happy
she
with it.
Goes for another year. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was quite surprised. Like, it wasn't like the certified coating, because I done it was one of my earlier on jobs when I wasn't fully certified, and I was still offering the Enthusiast line. And I can't speak highly of it's actually Geon Pure it was, and it's pretty bit of an underdog coating, that one, for myself. So
I've actually used a couple of Geon coatings, and one of them, it was actually a Pro line coating through someone else, my window tinter. He's got the products, and I do a bit of ceramic work for him. And he said, I've got this here, you may as well use it. And I was absolutely blown away with how the application, so much so I actually pinched some of it, obviously with his approval, to eventually, I haven't done it yet, but to chuck some on my partner's bonnet eventually, or something that I can see how it performs. But the application, absolutely blew me away. And if it performs like a pro coating and the application's fairly good, well, Geon's onto something half decent then. Absolutely. So
they always rave on about ease of install and stuff like that. So but I was just shocked, and we're going to top it up today. So it was just interesting, and I'm not here to pay out G-Technic either. It's just, I think we know that a company that blows up so quick, and I'm wary of other companies trying to do the same and get too big too soon. And I've never used them, but they probably are good products. But that's probably maybe why.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with their products. It's just that overhyped thing. But if they came down to earth with their what these products do, they would have absolutely no dramas at all. But as I said, from a business standpoint, they've done extremely well. The name's out there. Everyone wants it. But that's my perspective on it anyway.
We're not knocking G-Technic installs. It's just, it's nothing against them at all. It's just
not at all. As I say, I was there.
Business.
I was there. That's it. I was there. I was using it. I was loving it. But unfortunately, just went. I had to go. I had to move on. So
right. So how do you go? Is there no dramas with in their garages and that, putting all these coatings on with different temperatures and stuff like that? No.
9 times out of 10, it's fairly sort of straightforward. Again, with all this experience being mobile, been there, done that type of deal. The cold's not so much. You tend to just leave it on for a bit longer just to flash off, etc. So it's not so much the cold. The heat's always a problem. I remember last summer I had a Subaru in a tin shed, absolutely roasting. Definitely took a lot longer. This is where the fridge comes into play during summer. But look, you just start working smaller. Instead of doing a panel at a time, you go down to a quarter or a half a panel. Obviously, because that flashes too fast because of the heat. So 9 times out of 10, it's manageable. But again, like that's what we have to deal with. Doing what we do. Sometimes it's obviously not ideal, but again, like this is just what we have to deal with. I'd absolutely love to be in an air-conditioned room, temperature-controlled room, dust-proof room, which I think is more of a. It's not obviously there's benefits to it, but it's more of I think being in an air-conditioned room, that's more of a comfort. For the installer rather than a necessity for the application.
Yep.
It's definitely more of a comfort. But being mobile for so long, nothing really, you just get in there and get it done so you can go home. So.
All right. We probably touched on the culture anyway. We know there's a few guys around you and you're all friends with them, which is really good. So I'll touch on this. So what could we improve in our industry, you reckon, at the moment?
I think it always comes back to the people. There's a lot of guys that are ego driven that think they are God's gift. Obviously there's a lot of good guys, a lot of bad guys. So I think it just comes down to the people. But again, I can't really say too much. I've been just keeping to myself for a very long time now. Like yourself, the dramas on social media is unreal. Every now and then I'll flick through a notice board. Someone's asking for a detailer or who can apply this paint protection or whatever, and you look at the comments. And it reminds me of that scene out of Finding Nemo with all this. I think it's Finding Nemo with all the seagulls that just pop up. Moin. Like it's laughable. I feel really bad for the people asking the question, but that's what social media is. It's a place where everyone's in. So the social media side of things is pretty toxic. If you stick to your own thing and don't pay attention to it, a few guys will recommend your name that'll pop up on a notification, and you sort of back them up if you want to. But yeah, it always comes back to the people. People just coming back down to earth. The overhypes. I'm the best. I use the best. You're the worst. Don't see him type of attitude.
Yep.
But I don't know. Once you find your group of people, all like-minded, all care for the industry, rather than just, again, a lot of good people, a lot of bad people, a lot of people that will take your money and run. But that's every industry. That's a given.
Yeah.
There's always going to be that kind of crowd. But
I think we see a lot because we're more involved with it, and I always wonder. I was like, is there every other industry like this, or is the building industry like this, or is it just detailing? Is that what we see, or you always wonder if the builders are like, oh, he's a terrible builder. My house fell down.
Look, you see, unfortunately, if a detailer does a bad job, it doesn't make it to current affair. But if a builder does a bad job, it definitely makes it to a current affair. So there's definitely people out there that'll just take you for a ride. And unfortunately, same with building. It's before you realise it's too late. The money's gone, and it's a struggle to come back. I believe it's every industry.
And word of mouth, like if They'll soon pick up if you're doing a terrible job and ripping people off. The word will get around pretty quick.
It's wildfire,
Yep.
absolute wildfire.
Even
So
in Melbourne.
thankfully yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has things that don't go, but I'm definitely one to, it's pretty rare. I actually had one recently where I put Genesis on his Silverado. The Silverado gets used and abused because he tells me what he does with it. And he came to me the other day. It's like, oh, the ceramics sort of, it's a bit hard to wash and all that sort of stuff. And straight away, I'm like, contamination. It's probably clogged right up. And I'm just like, that's fine. It's, it can be normal on a car that gets used and abused, and if the maintenance a bit off, so I'm like, look, let's get it in, sort it out, bit of a decon, and you'll be, a good acid wash possibly, and you'll be on your way again. It'll be like it never happened.
Yeah.
So when something does happen, I'm absolutely first to. It doesn't sit well with me. If there's something that's not right, so I'm definitely one to jump on to an issue straight away, like everyone should be. But yeah, then these people that don't really care, they've got your money and they run. They don't want to know. They don't want to know you at the end of the day. So there's plenty of that going around, which is unfortunate. But
yeah,
I suppose this is why we.
It might not work for everyone, but
this is where you go. Sorry.
It might not for everyone, but. Yeah, I just normally touch back in with my customers after 3 months usually to see if they are happy or if there's any dramas. But when you're super big, it might not be hard to keep track of, but it's just something I do to make sure they are happy before they run off and tell all their friends that it's terrible. So it's just a good way of peace of mind.
Personal experience, like for your customers, massive in this industry, especially the customers that we go for. It definitely comes down to experience. So this way, he didn't really come to me with a problem. It was an issue. It was, I don't know, you could call it a problem as well, but it was a fairly simple issue to address. I like to put a lot of value onto what I do. So the customer, long story short, so the customer gets more. I've got these nice presentation folders that I leave with the customer after these big jobs, which has a lot of information about maintenance moving forward, recommended products, a thank you letter. It comes with a air freshener, a couple of business cards, and it also comes with a mirror hanger in this beautiful matte black with a gloss logo and all that sort of stuff. And everyone that holds it, they're like, wow, like they just love the extra cherry on top of the cake almost. With what we do. We'll obviously go through everything in person, but they've also got a little bit of reading information to take home, which helps a lot with that experience for them choosing me as their detailer essentially. Which helps a lot. So
no, that's awesome. All right. I've bumped me 5 questions up to, I'm calling it the 6-stage question. So I'm not sure who would do a 6-stage question, 6-stage polish these days, but I've thrown another one in there. I thought of the other day. So, well, what was your first ever detailing job back when you first started? First ever car? Can you remember?
I can't quite remember the first ever car. I definitely gave my first car some good detailing love, I should say. I had to have a laugh. I actually remembered the other day. I remember polishing it for the first time, and I was using Menzerna products. And Menzerna products at the time, they've changed it a lot now, but they were graded from like their heavy cut was like 500, and then I think it still is 500, and then they grade it up to very similar to like wet dry sandpaper. It's the finer grades are high, and then the coarse ones are very low. I actually started polishing with the high grade, so I was actually polishing it with a real fine polish to start to cut it, and I was finishing it with the cut. So I did it completely back to front. Again, we all start somewhere. You got to have a laugh. But I think that was when I first sort of really started mucking around, especially with a machine polisher.
Yep.
Yeah, that's probably what I can remember anyway. I don't have the best memory. Like my first properly paid job, I'm sure it would have been absolutely garbage. Might have been a family car for next to peanuts. So like everyone starts out with.
Yep.
So yeah.
Oh, nice. Favorite polisher?
I've actually got a few polishers, brands, I should say. I shouldn't say a few, only two. I always go back to the roots.
Yep.
But I've got the Flex Rotary and the Flex PXE80, which is absolutely unreal. It politely craps over the hybrid with
True.
its power and all that sort of stuff. So both Flex and Roops, but I always go back to. I actually used to swear by my 21 because it absolutely just mow everything down. But now I swear by my 15 LHR 15 Mark III, and it just flows. Sometimes it might take a little bit longer per job because it's a smaller, obviously it's a 5-inch machine. But the 21 was quite aggressive with some cars, but the 15 seems to just finish everything down really well, and yeah, just get it done, do the job.
Yep. I might have to check out that little Flex tool because, yeah, I know the Nano, I spoke about it. It is a little bit underpowered, I believe, but
look, it's a great. I actually had one. I sold it to get the as soon as I got the PXE80, I sold the hybrid straight away. It has its place. I think the hybrid's really good with like the 1-inch pads. I think that's probably the only benefit out of the hybrid. But whereas the PXE80, you've got your 3-inch all the way down to 1-inch, and there's all extension bars and all that sort of stuff, which is a game changer on one machine, and it's cordless, and the battery lasts for some time, whereas I think the hybrid sort of fizzled out pretty quickly. But to have the same amount of grunt with the PXE80 as the 1-inch compared to the 3-inch, if you put a 3-inch on the hybrid, it wouldn't it wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So someone's we'll continue on. Sorry about that.
You're right.
Someone was just in the background. Yeah.
No, that's all right. Ceramic or PPF? Have you done much?
This is a good question.
Yeah.
Because I dabbled in PPF. I did the training. I lost a lot of money on PPF, and a lot of PPF was probably the only jobs that really sort of set me off in terms of, I suppose, anxiety. I had one PPF job which I lost a lot of time, a lot of money on, and it was just headache after headache. And obviously, it was a love job because it was my first, I suppose, full PPF job. I actually really was proud of myself with how I did it, but obviously it wasn't perfect. And it's something that I didn't really want to put my name on it. But he signed up for, this essentially to start off, I suppose, job. He still paid, we ended up taking the PPF off, and I just polished and put a ceramic on it. I said, look, have some, let's sort it out. Let's, I'll polish it, ceramic it, give you a bit of a refund, and happy days. And he was happy that he went through the experience. I was happy I went through the experience, but it just didn't work out. And just on that story in particular, just to add salt to the wound, obviously I pulled all the PPF the right way with the steam and everything. It was an aftermarket paint job, and I got to the last piece. It was a front left-hand quarter panel, and steamed it all and all that sort of stuff. And it happens. It absolutely had to happen. On a job that I'd already lost so much time and money on, it pulled off a 50 centimetre piece size of clear. And it was just, what else could go wrong? Obviously, again, the challenges of business, navigating, talking to the customer, all that sort of stuff. Always a bitter pill to swallow on the customer side of things, but me being me and how I run what I run. Already had the solution played out, already had everything sort of in line to give to the customer. So it wasn't a super bad experience. At the end of it, he was stoked. He got his car back, looked better than ever it was. And we sort of signed that job off. My car, the D-Max is wrapped. So I've had that fully wrapped. So plenty of experience in both. I think I think I always go back to the ceramic for the cost. I love what PPF can do in terms of stone chips and scratching and all that sort of stuff. But from a consumer level, a ceramic's always going to be a lot more affordable. I am signed up with the bush wraps and all that sort of stuff. Like, I think that's unreal. That's perfect for these four-wheel drive guys that only want to spend a few $100 and get some sort of protection. I think that's fantastic. Obviously, a full PPF job, can be a little bit out of the price range for your general consumer market, unless they've just spent 300,000 plus 500, $500,000 or whatever on an exotic or something. They'll 100% always, well, most of them will always get a, what's an extra 10 to 15 grand to get it fully wrapped. So it's definitely a certain market for PPF. But I think for your general sort of spectrum, I suppose, ceramic, I think, will always take the cake. Visually as well, obviously, you can't beat the gloss of a ceramic. But there's some PPF wrap out there that's just obviously same with ceramics, constantly advancing and all that sort of stuff. So a long-winded sort of answer, but I think I'd definitely always go back to the ceramic.
No, that's good because, everyone either does one or both, but you've experienced the worst of PPF. And, sometimes I dread it as well. It's like, and you muck up. You have them days where you do muck up.
I think that this is a lot with the mobile side of things as well. I don't want to completely cross it off, but I definitely won't be revisiting it while I'm mobile. I'll have to be in a fixed location, absolutely. If I was to dive back into it,
No, that's awesome. Favorite detailing tool or product? You got a go-to?
This is where the fridge comes in. This is I'm going to go a little bit left of field here because my favorite ones have already been said. The compressor, the pressure washer, the Tornador. They're all great ones. But for me, I think I'm going to be left of field and say my fridge. There is nothing like grabbing a cold bottle of water or whatever, out of a fridge on a hot summer's day, especially being mobile. The upright fridge has a little freezer compartment in it, so the Super Dupers are on standby. If you're out in the sun, that definitely makes this the heat obviously a little bit more bearable. Absolutely. That helps me anyway, which helps me do my job.
Makes sense.
If there's any mobile guys, there's plenty of mobile guys out there, but if you haven't got like a little Waco or something, as you know, in summer, you buy a drink from the survey, it's bloody warm in 5 minutes in the car and you're drinking a warm water or something. So if anyone, definitely jump onto the small little fridge or something and just keep the lunch cold, keep the drinks cold, and that'll just make your day that little bit more simpler. I'm definitely going to say the fridge.
Especially mobile. That works hand in hand there. That's a good one.
Absolutely.
I'll throw this question in. So, biggest tip for any detailer starting out? What would you recommend someone starting out?
Over the years, I've actually had quite a few people approach me, which I love. What do you do? How are you where you are now? Unfortunately, with the way society is, I think everyone wants everything now. They don't want to wait. They don't want to put the effort in. And that was really showing with these people that were approaching me. So they were like, the most popular question is, how am I so busy? when this bloke had started out, he might be in his second or third month in. How are you so busy? What can I do? And politely, the only answer was time. You've just got to sit it out. You got to sit through these quiet days. You got to put yourself out there. Yeah, maybe do a couple of cheaper jobs, advertise it, and just unfortunately, it's a waiting game. Word of mouth is 100%. You can't pay for word of mouth. It is 100% a waiting game. So I think the tip for any detail starting out is definitely patience. Patience to get to where you sort of need to be. Look, there's definitely a few tips. Like there's a lot of the car care industry is flooded at the moment. There's heaps of stuff. So do what you need to do. I think another good tip will be just keep your eyes on what you're doing. Going back onto the people and stuff, people worrying about what he's doing and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's definitely a big tip. It's going to happen. The customers are going to come. I've heard it. It's been mentioned a few times on your podcast that there's that many cars out there, for everyone, whether they're just after a quick, cheap wash or they're after some premium work. There's that much work out there. I know, look, all the mobile guys that I know down here, or that started out mobile, they're booked out for ages. And look, if you're a detailer in Melbourne and you're struggling to get work at the moment, like really struggling, I'm sorry, the problem might be pointing back at you, because there's so much work. Just get out there and just get stuck into it. I think. I actually had a good mate of mine just start up. Spent a lot of time with him, a lot of respect for him because obviously he's a good mate. But and he's diving headfirst into it. He's loving it. So you just got to get into it. Just get stuck into it. I think.
Like we said earlier, you can't just start at the top. You got to build up to these things, and I think
you got it's a rough road. Look, there's a lot of times where I think, why am I worrying about it? Like, why do I do what I do? You get a nice soft black Nissan Patrol or something that you're trying to coat, and you look at it the wrong way, and it's just swelled up. So there's definitely but that's the roller coaster. That's business. That's the nothing's ever smooth sailing. If you get a week of smooth sailing, you've done well. But I can guarantee you there'll be a storm coming soon. That's just it is what it is.
It's business.
So that's right. Absolutely.
No, it's great answer. And just the final one, interests outside of detailing. What else do you like to get up to?
I've got a few. I've got a VX Club Sport that I've spent a bit of effort restoring to its former glory.
Yep.
So I love jumping into that and going for a spin, causing a bit of a fuss with the neighbours. It's just been cammed and nice big exhaust and all that sort of stuff. Look, I've got my partner and just relaxing, doing things with her. We've got dirt bikes. Going out with the boys, we've got Bathurst weekend coming up, motorsports. There's always a few things to keep the mind ticking. Probably a few too many, but I mean, you work hard to.
There was probably one I've just completely forgot. Your name come up in the dry ice space. Have you had a crack at that or something?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so we were fortunate enough. So one of these good customers that I mentioned previously with the mobile side of things, he was in a position, I mentioned he's got quite a few beautiful cars. And I actually spoke, so I see him twice a month. One day is like a detailing day, and then the other day is a maintenance day. So, and on these detailing days, we just took turns with each car to get the paintwork into the best possible condition. So a few cars were ceramic, a few cars were just waxed and whatnot. And then once we cycled through all the cars with the polishing and stuff, we then moved to engine bay, undercarriage, wheel arches and all that sort of stuff. And I did mention to him about this dry ice sort of process. And the bloke that he is. He was in engineering, and I probably got it wrong, but like very mechanical minded.
Yep.
You know, his garage was full of all these machines and all that sort of stuff. So he loves all his machines, and he was in a position to actually buy a dry ice machine, which not a whole lot of people are. It wasn't a huge commercial size one. It was actually quite a neat little system, probably the size of a your pneumatic George vacuum cleaner might be the size of that for a comparison. And he already had a pretty solid air compressor with a dryer and all that sort of stuff set at his house, which again, like, it's pretty unreal setup for a home. And he bought it. A few months later, it arrived, and we just sort of just started chipping away at these undercarriages and the engine bays and all that sort of stuff. Being the size of the unit, obviously it wasn't super powerful, but it still did a nice enough job. Ice blasting is definitely very interesting. It absolutely works. It's definitely not for everyone. I don't want to turn people away, but it is a very expensive process. If you're lucky and you've got a trade account with someone that supplies the dry ice, you might get your price down to maybe $2 or $3 a kilo. And on average, depending on the power of the dry ice machine, you might need maybe 300 to 400 kilos just to do the undercarriage of dry ice. That might be a bit overkill. I've heard of things around the 200 to 300 probably for a not so bad undercarriage dry ice job. So you're already the materials are super expensive. If you're hiring in the machines, you've got massive costs to hire, plus you need to hire one of those trailer compressors with the dryer just to run the thing. So straight off the bat, you're already talking a few grand before you even start a job. So it can be, if you don't have quite a few cars lined up, if you're a detailer and you're looking into dry ice, and the only option is to hire these machines, because I'm sure there's a few $100,000 in just buying the machine. So obviously you just hire them. You absolutely need 3, 4, 5 undercarriage booked in, lined up, ready to go. And even price, what people should be charging for these jobs, they should easily be up at around the $2,500, because you're taking into consideration your dry ice cost, the hire costs, and the time that it takes to do it. If you charge any less than $2,500, you're losing money. You're losing way too much money, to the point where it's not even worth it. So where I sort of see it is, if you're going to go to a customer, I suppose the best way to put it, someone, not your average person, is going to spend $2,500 just to dry ice an undercarriage of their car, which they never see. I love dry ice. Like, I love what it does. I love the fact that it doesn't damage the factory markings and all that sort of stuff for the suspensions and all that sort of stuff. It is definitely a safer way to do an undercarriage. It definitely appeals to, obviously, your higher end cars, because no one's going to, again, paying that sort of money for an undercarriage detail. That's not going to sit well with Barry down the road that has a 200 series Land Cruiser that he uses daily. He's got other things to spend $2,500 on. But again, I think that'll come down to how you advertise and all that sort of stuff. So long story short, it definitely, the market that it appeals to, I think, is very small. And if you've found it, that market, and you've worked out all your costs and all that sort of stuff, it can be beneficial. But then again, on a car, let's say, that 200 series Land Cruiser, you could pay a detailer a few $100 and they'll degrease and pressure wash it for the same thing. But you wouldn't necessarily do that on an old stupidly rare, exotic or something. You don't want to be using a caustic degreaser and then pressure washing it because water might get into somewhere where it doesn't belong, etc. So, but obviously, if a customer has a car like that, they're going to be more likely to pay that kind of money for it. The little dry ice machine that I played with, it has its place, but saying it, my customer, he sort of agreed. But if I turned around and said, "Look, I'm happy that I didn't spend 20 grand on this little machine plus whatever your compressor costs me," he would be like, "Yeah, I'm glad you didn't have to do it either, and I did it," type of deal. Because I would much rather put that kind of money onto something else. But yeah, a lot of people, I don't think, have looked into it too much about the actual costs involved. And yeah, look, it makes a cool video. It looks cool. It does what it needs to do. But yeah, the costs on the back end, I think, not. It's definitely one to consider. But yeah, once you sort of work out the cost of the ice, then the machine hire and the compressor hire, you definitely need to have a few cars lined up all ready to go. Money's already in your bank type of deal. And then you might be okay. You might make a little bit of money by the end of it, but it's a massive process for that's my view anyway. Yeah, it has its place. It does what it needs to do. It's just a very expensive way to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, nice, because I've seen a few of late on YouTube that little companies out and about now, and that's showing a lot of interior parts. They're treating it like it's like a steamer or an extractor. Like you could use it pretty much take over that. It's probably expensive way to do it. I've
actually that's right. When I was actually last playing at his with the dry ice machine, I actually pulled out my rubber mat from my car and gave it a quick blast just to see what would happen. Yeah, it cleaned it and whatnot and looked good, but it's a bloody expensive way to do it.
Yeah.
His machine doesn't use as much ice as what a big commercial one would. But I actually want to look into, I forgot his name, but you had someone on recently that was, I think, mentioned a Karcher
Kent
one or something that only needs like a CO2 canister or nitrogen canister or whatever it was. Like something like that will be interesting. I think as the industry moves forward and there's a cheaper alternatives, I think it'll become a bit more popular. But yeah, as I said, going back to that money side of things, I think that turns a lot of people away. And yeah, it's just, I mean, some people want to be that all-in-one shop that can do everything, that restoration shop. As it's got its place, it does what it needs to do. Again, being mobile, I don't need it. I don't want it. We don't do undercarriage stuff because we're mobile. And again, we're going back on this customer with the dry ice machine. He's got hoists everywhere. So if we're doing an underbody, it goes up on his own hoist and all that sort of stuff. So he's got all the gear. And I'll just come and play around with his cars. I love it. It's great.
That's a good way to do it then, because I just was always, I'm fascinated about it, and when it come up and your name got dropped, and I'm like, oh yeah, and I think that's why I started Messenger about it, asking the question. And
he must have seen, because I did put a couple of stories up on Instagram about it, and he must have seen it. But yeah, as I said, the unit that we were playing around with was only a small unit, so it wasn't these big commercial ones that these other companies are using. But it's definitely, obviously, a good indication of what to expect. Obviously, the big commercial units will do a better job quicker, but they're also going to use a lot more ice and a lot more, I suppose, money to get the machines down and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, if you're fortunate enough to buy the unit outright or whatever and have its own dedicated space, go for gold. Absolutely.
No, I'm not getting into it anytime soon at all, but it's just fascinating where it's come.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it started in the manufacturing industry, like cleaning food machines and all that sort of stuff. And then, someone's just started, on the automotive side of things. It's definitely interesting, but it's not for me at the moment. I'm too busy to worrying about extra services and all that sort of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. So, we might wrap it up. That's been pretty good, Jarrod. So, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it was a good chat. I appreciate the time. It's nice to sit down and just have a chat about the industry, as I spend a lot of time by myself day in, day out. So, yeah.
Yeah, like we say, we're always got the headphones on, listen to pods or music, and that's sort of why I started this thing. So something else to listen to during the week. So yeah, it's going well.
So, I'm definitely not looking forward to the playback of this though. I don't know how I'd react to hearing my own voice, but look, it's been different. Jump outside the comfort zone a little bit and experience something else.
Yeah, I had the same thing. To me, people were like, I didn't know you could do a pod, and I'm like, well, either could I. So I was like, oh, I'll give it a go. And but I'd still listen back to I still listen to them. Either like the next day, I'll go and listen to myself, and I'm like, oh yeah, that didn't sound too bad, I thought. So yeah, but all right, we'll wrap it up. So
get out there and get it done.
Yeah, how can people reach out to you, Jarrod, online?
The best way is obviously mobile, because a mobile will stop me in my tracks. But look, socials, Platinum _Auto _Salon on Instagram. I've got my Facebook page. If anyone, I suppose, wants to have a chat, give us a yell. I'll eventually get to you. But I'm here for the industry. I'll absolutely help the right people.
No, nice.
But always that phone call will definitely stop me.
Yeah, it's like that these days. Like if I'm polishing, it's not ideal. But same with us. We're on Instagram and Gmail. So detailingdownunderpodcast gmail.com. So if anyone else, hit us up. Always looking. So I've got a few recordings to do before I shoot back off for FIFO for a week and then back into it. So punching it out weekly, so that's going well. So timing's always a drama, but everyone's busy and is what it is. But we'll make it work like we did today. All right, thanks, Jarrod, for your time and
much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, head over and give us a share and a like and a rating, of course. So which helps. So we'll keep this thing happening. So thanks a lot.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
No dramas. Thank you. See ya.
Cheers.
Bye.
That was another episode of the Detailing Down Under podcast. Subscribe now for everything auto detailing in Australia.